Good morning, everybody. It's Jillian. So last night I was pretty much up almost the whole night. I mean, I went to bed around 8, but really didn't go to sleep till about, I don't know, 10 or so. Um, and then, yeah, this morning I woke up to somebody trying to argue with me in my group because they're all into the conspiracy world. They're anti-vax and afraid of the fluoridated water and afraid of the bacteria in the water, and proceeded to try to tell me that, or ask me a question, well, what kind of water can I use? And I'm like, oh God, here we go. And then they proceeded to, I said, okay, so they're telling me they use a high filtered water. They don't do distillation anymore, but they have a very expensive water filter on their tap. And they're like asking me, well, is it okay to use this? And I'm just like, because it takes out everything. And I'm like, distillation takes out everything. So how is that any different than distillation with a high quality water filter? And what the hell is it taking out? You don't need to use a water filter. You don't need to use anything that is trying to induce fear in your world. And that's what water filters do. They induce fear. And so I had to then basically tell this person, Dylan, Jamie, Martin, bye. See ya. All right, done. All right, so anyways. So I know this lady who is still anti-vax. I know she is still afraid. She's in the conspiracy world, anti-government. And so I'm putting her on notice. And in a lot of ways, I'm trying to drive people away that are still heavily into the anti-vax and the conspiracy. Now, I don't care what you do on your page, but as soon as you bring it into my group and then you are that rotten apple that will infect the population, I'm going to have my own campaign because I don't want those type of people in my group or on my page. No matter how much you say you support me, if you are going to induce fear and you're going to be anti-government, anti-vax, anti-whatever, and you're going to then say that the water supply has all this bad stuff in it, unless you're in like Flint where they have stuff, I don't know whatever's in Flint, the Flint water that has caused everyone to freak out. Unless you're in Flint, I don't want to hear your fears about the water. When you do the J juice, it has all the necessary elements, that the components that your body needs. There's nothing poisonous out there. The only thing that's poisonous out there is your imbalances. And so that means that you're going to have to then figure out how to balance out your body, or you'll play the discrimination game until you back yourself into a corner and you have nothing left to then be around or surround yourself with because you're allergic to everything. Okay, so there's nothing poisonous. And so she wanted to say that there's stuff that's poisonous in the water and then say, well, my husband's going to be drinking a gallon a day. You really think drinking a gallon of tap water a day is really going to help him out? And I just about come unglued. So I'm putting her on notice, and I hope I do drive her away because I don't want that person in my group. But I'm still going to give her the benefit of the doubt that if she reacts to me in any way, looking any sideways, wants to argue, gone. I will have no qualms. Okay? Because now it's zero tolerance. I have zero tolerance for any conspiracy, any fear, anything, because if you have been following me for just even a tiny bit, you would have seen that I don't deal with conspiracy, fear, or any discrimination in my group or on my page. I don't care what your excuse is. And just because you don't agree with everything that I say doesn't mean that you have license to go and try to debate with me in my own group. Okay? That's not okay. So I have no problem. And you'll probably see her name come up all over the place in my group because I have tagged her in so many different videos, so many different posts. And I know she's still anti-vax, and I know that, and fine. But you're not bringing the whole tap water fears in my group. Not at all. The whole thing with fluoridation, I'm not worried about that either. Fluoridation is not a problem, especially when you're taking in the J juice and you're balancing out your minerals to release any excess and then absorb what it needs. Okay? So it's like, if you don't know that by now and you've been following me for a while and you say you love J juice, then you'll never know it. And then I know you're speaking out of both sides of your mouth. And I can't deal with hypocrisy. I can't deal with it. So yeah, this young lady is on notice. And I'm hoping that she reacts to me in some weird way that I can just take her off. Because, but I mean, I'm hoping that she's smart. She won't react to me and that she'll be like, okay, I'm so sorry. I apologize. I hope she comes off that way. Because that smart ass comment of that, oh, well, you're very good. If you promote drinking a gallon a day, then drinking a gallon a day of tap water is going to kill you, then da da da. Oh, like throwing my information in my face to then prove your point doesn't help you. So she'd be smart if she won't even react. Because if you don't react to me, then I'm not going to want to take you out of the group. If you say nothing at all, you're still welcome and you know when to shut up. Okay? But if you want to defend yourself, you're looking for a fight that you're not going to win. Okay? So that's just a fair warning to everyone else that's still in the fear campaigns. So anyways, so yesterday, I was watching that video about the devil next door and all that stuff. And then I'm looking at our society and I'm looking at the cures and the viruses and the cancers. I just saw an article that talked about a virus that the Aussies are making, a virus that's going to kill all other viruses. And I'm like all other cancer viruses, not just all other viruses, but all other cancer viruses. Okay. And so, so anyways, hold on. I just got to make sure everything is cool. The trolls are out in force today, and that's fine. I don't mind blocking every single troll out there that wants to mess with me. Okay. So, so anyways, so I'm like, okay, what is a cancer virus? A cancer virus is basically how it hits the body. When you say cancer, it means the body is weak, because we've established that viruses are the reason behind cancer. But not all bodies that have viruses are going to be cancerous. The only time a virus is horrible on a body is if its body is weak. So a weak body will then react to the viruses, and that's what they call it, cancer. Okay? And that's what I say, cancer viruses, because it's a description. Hey, Massimo, it's a description of how that virus interacts with that weak body. Okay? And so yeah, so then you start seeing then people using the cures out there, and they have to use stronger cures because the cancer cells, the weak cells, okay, the weak cells that already have weaknesses is what the cancer exploits, or the viruses exploit the weaknesses, and then the virus spreads, or the cancer spreads, because now it's a chain reaction of trauma and weaknesses in the body, that once there's enough weakness in the body, that's when cancer comes into play. Now, you can play with your hormones and do these certain things to kind of help balance it out, but in the end, it's still going to be a person dying from a heart attack or triggering some kind of cancer disease or major weakness, or die from a stroke because they're mineral depleted. Okay? So these cells will shapeshift, they'll mutate, they'll evolve, so that way they can be immune to all of these different drugs and things that are being used to control the cancer. And so that's why there's always a run for the cure, okay? Because they're always looking for stronger elements, different conglomeration of elements, different conglomeration of viruses, different conglomeration of bacteria to try to control the cancer. Okay, so that's no different than history. So we're seeing in the conspiracy community, which is kind of like a shapeshift of the same type of people back in World War II. Okay, now I'm not saying that the conspiracy community is, but there are still people who are still on bodies that are completely like out of whack, still practicing the same human exploitation, the same human trafficking, the same things that they did back in like World War One. I mean, humanity hasn't changed. How they manifest their imbalances have shape-shifted over however many years they've been around. I mean, if you study history, you can see how humans have manifested their imbalances and balances, and it's changed, but it's only changed because it's different time, different people, but it's the same, it's predicated from the same death trajectory, the same imbalances. You still have oxytocin, adrenaline, you still have people who are murderous. I mean, you still have people who have imbalances in all 11 different systems, and then they act out those balances or imbalances, and then they shape shift over time. And then you have the good guys that try to stop those cancerous cells, so to speak, and try to put in measures like surveillance society, like the EPA, the FDA, the CDC, I don't know, Homeland Security, okay, to try to mitigate the cancer cells from taking over and destroying the population. But remember, cancer cells know how to shapeshift and evolve into something more strategic so they can still survive. Well, look at the thing with the Epstein. Now, I know you're all like, oh my God, they have squashed the whole Epstein, which in a way I think they should, because if they really were to come out with how big and prolific that whole network is, people would be shocked. They really would. And then the society would really, there would be no trust in anything because of how many people are involved in high levels of government and in industries. Okay. We know that there are people that have skeletons in their closet, but they also do very good things too. So you have bipolar type of people who have done really horrible things in their past or currently, but then they can switch it over and do majorly wonderful things. Okay. And so what is that split? It's like, you know, that horrible part of their body is exploiting the weak, and the great part of their body or their whole 11 different systems is like helping the strong. Okay. And so you see that just as like a dichotomy, a split in society where you see horrible people trying to exploit the weak, which is the whole thing with the child trafficking and the pedophile network is exploitation of the weak. And it's in a lot of ways, it's like these cancer cells are trying to destroy other weak cells. I mean, when you really take a look at it from a biological point of view, okay? And so no matter how much you try to impose cures and remedies on a population as well as on a body, those cancer cells, if the body's on a death trajectory, are going to be strategic in how they manifest their life, because the will to live, no matter who it is, it's pretty strong. And a weak cell or a cancerous cell has the will to live, just like a very strong cell has a will to live. And then it's a matter of who is going to overtake who. And that's no different in the body, no different than in different countries and different continents, as well as different factions and different groups. It's about majority rules, and that's just like our democracy. Okay, so when the body is on a death trajectory, and history repeats itself when the outcome is always the same, because the characteristics of the aging process hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. Just how it manifests is just a little bit different based upon all the new things that go on in society, like technology and access to resources, and then new ideas and new things. But still, the core of humanity on a death trajectory hasn't changed. It's just now being filtered through new technology. It's now instead of having, like, you know, Hitler going out and being in your face and killing the Jews in concentration camps, now we have people who are under the underbelly society doing these underground things, and then you hear about it through the conspiracy world. They're like, oh my God, this is what's going on, and they're hiding it, and they could very well be hiding it. But no matter what, you have zero control over that, because it's like it's their body that has those issues, and that person who is a victim is going to have to be strong, or they're going to have to be weak. Either way, they're going to be a predator or prey, or they're going to take themselves out of that dynamic of being a predator or a prey. There is no way you're going to stop all these different networks that exploit the weak. There is no freaking way. You can try, and they are. I mean, they do bring certain people to justice, just like that movie yesterday that guy that they put on trial in Jerusalem and then in Germany, he's probably one out of like hundreds that have made it to the US, and some have escaped. They're not going to bring to justice every single guard that was in Auschwitz and Treblinka. And a lot of them did escape to the US and different parts of the country. And a lot of them are walking around today that have been part of the SS guards, okay? So there's no way you're going to be able to bring all these people to justice, stop all of these horrible things that humans have done to each other, because people still keep producing babies that have major weaknesses. They still believe that people should die. And when you're on a death trajectory, the core of the human doesn't change. It just manifests differently. And then just like cells that try to survive and a body's trying to fight against it, it strategizes, it mutates, it finds ways to hide from the cures and the therapies. Okay? And so you really have to look at society and humanity and how they behave is no different than the cells in your body when you're trying to apply all these remedies and they're not working, because the body adapts and then finds ways to survive no matter what you throw at it, unless you learn how to balance all of the biochemistry. Okay, and that's the whole point of J juice, is balancing all the biochemistry, not bringing in viruses to then obliterate other viruses or other cancer cells, not trying to bring in antibiotics, that's anti-life, making antibodies. Okay, and that's kind of the mentality, actually that is the mentality of the holistic allopathic world. Okay, and then you have all the fear and the conspiracy people. Okay. And so Kevin goes, I found it is a cancer cell is a normal cell that's part of your, and the cell has been cut off from the communication. Either way, it's still, but whether you call, whether it's cut off from the communication or whether it's part of the network, it means that when those communications are cut off, it's still weak. It's not normal if it's cut off from the network. Okay? It's still weak. Now, I understand you're trying to put in some information to give people a different perspective, but no matter what, if it's by itself and it's not part of a higher collective of strength, okay, then it's still weak. It's not strong. I mean, it will become strong if it multiplies. Okay, and so that's the whole thing of trying to stop that programming. So these are weak cells, cells that have been sequestered, because viruses would not attack a strong body. Cancer isn't cancer until it's called cancer. They don't call all your cells cancer. Their cells are your cells. The only reason why it's cancer, Kevin, is because a body is weak. And those cells that you have said that have been cut off from the communication because of the weaknesses, things have been cut off. And so they are left by themselves and they're multiplying, taking over, and they are a malevolent force. And then they apply all these different protocols to try to stop that. But in turn, it also destroys good cells as well as bad cells, and it weakens the weaknesses. Okay? Because it is about trying to balance out everything in the body so that way you don't create weaknesses. Every single PTSD and trauma is a weakness that viruses will exploit. But if you have no weaknesses, you don't have cancer. Yeah, and it will do anything to replicate and survive because it's trying to live. It's another entity that's trying to live. But it's still a weakness in your body, because a virus is an outside entity that will find a way to upgrade you or downgrade you. And what is that based upon? That's based upon the weakness or the strength of your body. Okay? And when you have generational weaknesses and generational issues and trauma, and then you're still exposed to then the environment that's full of viruses, this is why you're seeing now more cancer, disease, and chronic illness, and earlier and earlier death for a lot of people, or we're just stringing death out over a long period of time, and then people are like the crypt keepers when they pass away. No different than concentration camp survivors. Okay? They're like these walking skeletons. Right, Massimo. Sometimes it takes a lot of time for a new true belief to be accepted from humanity. We only need to continue on this path, JJ, and show the results in the body. Absolutely. And we got to make those connections and realize that we only have control over our own body. We have zero control over somebody down the street. Okay? We can only control our bodies, maybe our kids, up to a certain point. And then after that, you know, you've lost control. Now it's up to the child to then make up their own mind on what their belief system is. And so if we understand that history does repeat itself, that even though we've eradicated those despots like a Hitler, though people who are in fear or don't like somebody else's ideas will blame, no different than what they did back in World War II, blaming the Jews. They will blame the Democrats, Republicans, anyone that doesn't believe their way. And then this is what justifies atrocities and genocide. And then that fear permeates and then also turns cancerous. Okay? Because fear attracts fear. And so, but I've heard that analogy that everybody has cancer cells. No, everybody has cells in their body. Does everybody have weaknesses? Right. Well, at this point, those that are not on the J juice, yeah, everybody has cancer cells because everybody has weaknesses. But what if on the J juice, you actually eradicate all of your weaknesses? Now, it's only cancer if they do a test and they see that, just like with antibodies, you're only going to test positive for an antibody if it triggers enough of the antibody count to trigger that positive or negative. Okay, so no different with cancer. If everybody has cancer cells, okay, then what makes it cancer? I mean, that kind of takes away any meaning to the word cancer if it says everybody has cancer cells. So cancer has a specific program attached to it. It says there's more of something that's going to take over and destroy the body than there is. Well, stage 1 cancer means that you are now heading down a path where you have a weakness and you have other weaknesses, and it has the potential to take over and destroy. Okay, so we're not trying to make cancer look good, because cancer is not good. Okay, because cancer is a virus on a weak body. Viruses aren't bad, because we have viruses on strong bodies that have actually helped people evolve. Okay, and bacteria. So there's nothing bad there's nothing bad, but how it impacts. It's only bad on how it impacts your body as far as your expectation and your intention. Okay, and so if your intention is to live indefinitely and you don't want to die even today, because really when you think about it, life and death, I mean, they're two absolutes, and it's irrelevant the time in between. If you believe in death, it doesn't matter if you die today, if you die 50 years from now, you believe in death, then everything that you're going to do is going to then follow and be predicated upon that belief system. So yeah, you'd be like, okay, I have cancer, so I'm going to apply all these different remedies and hope to buy another day, but it's still a crapshoot and a gamble. But if you believe in definite life, then this is where facing the pain and all of that stuff comes into play. And then you aim to strengthen all of your weaknesses so you don't give a name for the viruses that are in your body. The viruses are just your biochemistry, not a virus with a name that then has cancer attached to it. Okay, because viruses aren't anything until somebody has symptoms. Like, I'm fine. Would you call my living a virus? Would you call me living right now a cancer? Do I have cancer? No, I don't. Do I have a virus in my body? I have a million viruses in my body, but nothing of which is going to then be deemed as anything diagnosable to where I have to go get treatment. But somebody in a society with a strong body is exposed to every single virus out there. The only reason why it's pejorative is because it depends upon the weakness of the body, how that virus exploits the weaknesses. And so that's fine. You can say, Kevin, that the cancer cells have cut off communication, but that still explains weaknesses. Because just like when you see someone splinter off from the crowd, so we're on a life trajectory, and then someone says, okay, just like in communism, they don't like separatists, right? So when you have a collective that's on a life trajectory, and then there's one cell that just doesn't like life, or they have something going on, and then it tries to then shout out, say, oh, I hate the government, I hate this, I hate that, and they infect other cells that are weak too, because whoever it is isn't strengthening all the cells. And so that's where cancer comes in, is because one weak cell has then infected other cells that were on that verge, right? And that's no different than in groups. That's why I don't want to have somebody cancerous in my group instilling fear of the tap water, of the chemtrails. And so I take out cancer viruses, or I apply them with so much of my stuff that either they shut up or they leave. One of the two. Okay? So no matter what, you know, if that person is going to try to infect my group, that's no different than somebody, you know, just like a cancer virus, having communication cut off and then replicating and, you know, or infecting other people. Because, yeah, I mean, it can replicate and divide, just like Kevin was saying, it divides and replicates and reproduces, or it can infect other people who have the same biochemistry, who are on the fence about everything, and it won't matter which way the wind blown. If her wind was stronger, she would then infect that other person or be infected by that person. So that's really what cancer is. It's a separatist that isn't going along with the party line, but then you have to figure out, is the party line good or bad? And that's based upon life and death. And that's why these dictators, like I was watching on Frontline, was it Frontline? Yeah. It was called The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. You guys got to watch that. Holy crap. Okay. I mean, that is a monarch. And they, you know, I was watching on and off when I was sleeping. But it's like any of these dictators or kings. I mean, this guy built like he built the Saudi Arabia from like thousands and thousands of people to now millions, and it's a huge metropolitan area, metropolis. And the successor right now, the crown prince right now, is now trying to maintain some kind of order and figure out how to utilize the oil that they have. And there are dissidents and there are activists. And I don't know exactly what these activists, you know, how much more freedom they want. I mean, they have lifted a lot of the restrictions on women and other types of things like music and art and stuff. But it seems that the people want more, and there's activists that are critical of the crown prince, critical of the future of Saudi Arabia, and then those dissidents are being taken care of. They're being tortured, they're being silenced, or they're being killed, okay? And so I don't know exactly everything, but yeah, when you have a collective that's trying to go towards a specific path, and then there's people that are like not wanting to conform, it's going to be natural that the stronger body is going to try to eradicate the minority. And then humanity has to figure out, okay, is he taking or is she taking this country or this body or these people in a life trajectory or a death trajectory? And then that's when, I guess, activism can be justified. Okay? And then that depends upon science, that depends upon so many different things. And so you almost have to look at cancer as separatists in a communist nation. Okay, now we have people here like in America where we are allowed to have so many different factions, and we do. And that's okay, as long as we still uphold the Constitution in America and the Bill of Rights. So it doesn't matter what you believe or how you say stuff, certain things, as long as the Constitution, the Bill of Rights are upheld. Okay, and that is the unifying doctrine of our nation. And you can still have freedom of thought and innovation. Okay. Oh, my husband just calling me right now. Hi, I'm on Facebook Live. Okay, bye. So yeah, okay, because, you know, what is normal? Normal is based upon the perception, on the perspective of the majority. So a cancerous body could be normal to a cancerous person, and then strong cells could be cancerous on a cancerous body. It's all based upon perspective. There is no such thing as normal or abnormal. It's based upon your perspective and your intention. And that's where I really want you to get, Kevin, is that we don't want to mainstream cancer as if it was a normal thing. No, it's not. Cancer destroys people. It's not something that we promote or we say that it's good or it's a normal cell. No, cancer is something that on a body that's trying to live is the exact opposite. And so if we come from the standpoint that a body that's trying to live, and the collective, so the body is a collective that's trying to live, and then there's certain cells that have weaknesses based upon trauma, because that's how we understand why cancer is called cancer and why viruses are called viruses. It's because the trauma on the body was never fixed and strengthened or reversed, and then the viruses found that and they exploit it. And then what do viruses do? They are the balancing force of the universe. They destroy what is weak and they build up what is strong. That's the balancing force. That's Mother Nature. Mother Nature does not want weakness. Okay? Mother Nature does not want weakness in her population. However, man has found ways to manipulate, to prolong the weaknesses. Okay? But if it was up to Mother Nature and we didn't have modern medicine, she would have made that person die from that cancer as soon as that weakness came about and that virus hit that person. All these viruses are the balancing forces. They strengthen strong bodies and they destroy weak bodies. And then modern medicine comes in and gives you a little bit of insurance. Just a little bit. Because at some point you're going to be depleted of your minerals and you're going to have organs shut down because of your belief system and lifestyle. Okay? And so viruses are the balancing force. They destroy the weak and they build up the strong. And so cancer is Mother Nature destroying the weak. And that's it. I mean, that's pretty much the bottom line, because I have viruses in my body, but guess what? I don't have cancer. Why is that? Oh, because I have a strong body. But someone who has cancer has a weak body, and you see it in them. Okay? So that's the standpoint. Normal is based upon your perception. There is nothing normal or abnormal. It's just based upon your perception of life and death. And people want to live. So cancer cells are not normal. They really are abnormal. They're weaknesses. And nobody wants to die, and nobody wants to be weak. So you got to treat that cancer cell as if it was weak, abnormal. But hey, if you want to die, then it's just normal. It's fine. You allow Mother Nature to take over and destroy you. Okay? So it's all about perspective. As soon as we impose what's normal and abnormal, then you got to figure out, why are you imposing that? Then you got to look at the bigger picture. And so, yeah, we will glean that out in the book. I understand where Kevin's coming from, but I don't want to have any miscommunication or misinterpretation, or us legislating what is normal and what is not normal. Because as soon as we impose what we think is normal and not normal, then we start legislating morals and imposing our way. If you guys say you want to live, then cancer cells are not something that you want to promote. Okay? Because a very near word, cancer, is saying that it's exploiting a weakness. It's a virus, but viruses are everywhere. It's only a cancer virus on a weak body. It's nothing on a strong body. You just have antibodies. But you probably will test negative for some of them. If you test positive, I don't even know what kind of antibodies to test positive for. So, but it doesn't even matter. It's pointless to test me for anything because I don't have any issues. So I will not test myself for any viruses because there's no point. I know I have a million viruses I've been exposed to, going from China to Ohio to Hawaii to California, on the plains, hell, I don't know, Canada, people I've hung out with. Okay, we've all been exposed to viruses. However, it only is a cancer virus on a weak body. Thanks, Massimo. Yes, Mother Nature does destroy the weak. That is her whole point. That's why it's about Darwinism. Survival of the fittest. And we're seeing it right now. Okay? So if you know how to adapt to the change in society, you will survive all the changes. And then if you are afraid of everything, then you are showing the weakness. And I sense the weakness. However, I don't fault you on your own Facebook page, but as soon as you bring that fear and that weakness and your conspiracy and all that stuff into my group, I will try to eradicate a potential cancer. So that's kind of what I am. I'm kind of like the jelly juice of weak cells, weak bodies. And that's exactly what the whole jelly juice is about. I exemplify the jelly juice. And every single one of you that's doing jelly juice exemplifies jelly juice if you understand the foundation of it. Okay? So anyways, I'm going to do my thing, but I needed to get that across because, yeah, you're going to see history repeat itself, but it will shapeshift. It's like playing whack-a-mole, and you'll watch it every generation. The manifestations of weak bodies are going to come out in different ways. So we can't have a Hitler in all these death camps. Now we're going to have individuals committing atrocities against animals, against each other, against their own parents. I mean, you read the news, you watch your Facebook, you see people doing horrible things to each other. That's no different than what Epstein does to children, and then what Hitler did to the Jews. But now you see it on an individual level, because now these cancer viruses do adapt to the environment, and they don't want to die, so they go underground. They go deeper underground. So it's going to be harder to find the cancer viruses out there unless we change the course of humanity. But you will see then the whistleblowers talk about it. But there's nothing you can do. Only thing you do is strengthen your own body, stop procreating children on weak bodies to then create the predators and the prey, and change humanity that way. Because you can't control your neighbor, and you can't control anyone except for yourself, really. So, all right, that's it. You guys have a good day. Bye.